Hello, and thanks for hanging out, and welcome on back to the Smite Founders Series. We got more Smite 2, more EMEA upon us. It's still Malum, still Gormizer with you, and don't forget, at all times throughout today, exclamation point access. That's how you can play Smite 2. So at any point, you're in Twitch chat, you see somebody talking about playing, you want to play yourself, maybe you've got some friends you'd like to play some Smite 2 with, exclamation point access is the way to do it. You'll see a code, you'll see some links. Put the code in Smite 2 Esports in the link, and you'll be playing Smite 2 today. See how I did that? I was so clean with it.
I'm glad you felt proud about it.
Yeah, I'm still recovering from the excitement of game 1 into the quiet game 2, but I'm looking forward to this next set we've got. So remember, exclamation point access and play some Smite 2. But watching Smite 2, what are we watching? Well, it's quite the matchup. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been looking at it. I don't want to spoil rosters quite too yet until you see them on screen in a bit, but I'm pretty pumped up. Tythonic versus Yodie gang we'll have up soon, and Tythonic was a team that I feel like we've talked so much about what we haven't seen from them. They haven't been broadcast very often, but as a roster, pretty stacked up for sure. Yodie gang is a team that's had some ups and downs for sure, but looking to improve for sure. And this point in the bracket so far as well, they've had interesting paths through it up to this point for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what these two teams are going to be able to do against each other. I feel like this matchup, it's one of those things that on paper feels like it could be and should be pretty close, but you really never know. Tythonic, falling down only to Smoke Break, pushing Smoke Break to that extra limit, right? Forcing to go to a game 3. So like that's a team that you already know just based on what we've seen from Smoke Break is incredibly strong. But the same thing, Yodie gang, where they're at, right? The matches they've had that, look at Bill's Goons. We just saw Bill's Goons, unfortunately, again, with a loss, but Yodie gang as well, able to 2-0 them in that first week. Only falling to Mockingbird, which like, duh, that team's insane. So like it does create an air about these two teams where you might give Tythonic the slight edge just based on past history, but realistically, I think they are incredibly close in competitive skill, and it's going to make it a very fun one to watch.
It will indeed. And we've already mentioned Tythonic versus Yodie gang will be what we're checking out first, but there's some other games we're seeing this weekend. So let's take a look at the schedule and get ourselves prepped. We saw Bill's Goons versus Scorps earlier on today, and going on right now, we'll have Tythonic versus Yodie gang off air. You'll have Threat Level Midnight versus Project Win, so be sure to check around the community, look for player streams, any community streams. You want to keep an eye on that matchup. And then tomorrow, quite the loaded pack of games. I'm very pumped up to watch Mockingbird versus Smoke Break in particular. I think that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. But Titans Reloaded is a roster I am a big fan of personally. So a lot of good games going on in EMEA, Gore.
Yeah, Mockingbird versus Smoke Break is one that can really go either direction. Who knows what we're going to see, especially again with all the changes that have come through. Right, we're not allowing, and this is kind of mentioned at the very top of things, but like no Herc, no Danza this weekend, right? So we're not getting any craziness that's brought about by those guys, which for Hercules is like maybe necessary. But having Ama into the mix, changing the way like basic attacks work. A couple of like some minion changes, realistically, it does mean we might not see a massive shift. I think the Amaterasu is probably the biggest change for this weekend. And so I'm excited to see both them and this next set, like what they do with some of those shifts.
I hope we see more Soul. I'm a big Soul fan, and she looked fantastic for the Scorps. So let's find out. Picks and bans for game number 1 between Tythonic and Yodie gang is upon us. I'm looking for the Soul. We saw earlier a prioritization for Jingwei and Baron as the top bans, and then top picks. We saw the battle of Fenrir and Athena, which was an interesting top pick battle that I don't think we've seen that combination of yet. Lots of Fenrir, but Athena jumped up as a new up-and-coming star who popped off in solo and in the jungle.
Yeah, last week Athena caught me entirely off guard. This week I'm not allowing it. I recognize that she has a lot of prevalent presence on the map, and realistically it's actually maybe the same reason that we see that Neath get banned. Global presence is really good, and it's also just not really like bountiful, I guess is the word, in Smite 2. There's not a lot of gods that got it, right? Neath, Athena, there you go, right? I mean, you might have some, again, like Fenrir, or I'll use Loki and Susanoo, who can feel like they have global presence because they seemingly pop up everywhere all the time. but it's not true global presence the same way that your Neats and your Athenas do that are getting played. So I'm really excited to see what these gods are able to do, and I do expect to see potentially Athena. It feels like she's been finding her home lately, but it's that, do you highly prioritize or do you not? And it kind of, that one feels much more team to team. This draft feels like something we could have seen anytime in the last 3 weeks, and it feels pretty much right on point with everything we've seen. Fenrir, Jingwei, Odin. All three of them are really good gods. All three of them do exactly what they say on paper. You've got a god that's really good and flexible in Fenrir. He's got stuns, he's got damage, he's got good CC in the Ragnarok for the pickup. He's got what you need. Odin, hey, he's got walls, he's got shield, he got damage. Jingwei, crit machine. It really does feel like everything so far has been kind of to the letter, and nothing so far has stood out in this draft.
Tythonic, Jingwei, Odin, but Anubis still on the table, not banned away. It's been a prioritization for teams, at least that we've seen so far today, and a lot of last weekend. Kind of stepping up around that Cuckoo territory, so we'll see where he does fall. But Tythonic do grab themselves the Athena. So Jingwei, Athena, that would have been a combination that either team would have been happy to have had in our first set today. So we'll kind of go crazy with the Odin is the big thing. Get a lot of CC already. But hey, what about Nuwa? Just hovered for Tythonic, and Nuwa's been performing pretty fantastically so far and has gotten a lot of buffs actually more recently. Constant balance changes. She got hit pretty hard from some nerfs, then found her way back up.
Once again,
she is very fun to watch, and again, she's not too much different than maybe what you would expect if you played Smite 1, right? You're gonna be throwing out a lot of your clay soldiers for stuns and damage, also mist for stealth purposes, but mostly probably a little bit of damage, and your ult's gonna hit everybody. It realistically does come down. Her passive changes, right? That makes her feel different and maybe a little fresher, but you know what you're getting out of this god, and I like her matchups here. I feel like she's got a lot of self-peel, specifically for like things with Brutalize. Fenrir jumps on you, you throw down your soldiers, you just stun them instantly. It's an AoE on your feet at that point. And you should be set to peel off things like the Bacchus, the Fenrir. It's not instant, it's not guaranteed, it's not easy, but it's something that I will expect to see from Tythonic, and at least a little helpful in the grand scheme of things. When you line that up, as you had kind of mentioned, but like you have Athena, when you back that up with the Nuwa damage, with like Odin damage, with Jingwei damage, I feel like this is a comp for Tythonic that can do okay early on, but it really is going to excel the longer this game goes. And you've got a little bit of that as well for Yodie Gang. I feel like they scale well, but they also have a lot of early game presence that can cause some trouble.
We'll see if early game wins it, if it locks it down, or if late game is the way to go. Let's head into game number 1 between Yodie Gang and Tythonic. Malum, Gore, and Doug. And will we see Invade? That's the question we're asking basically every single game at this point. Usually it feels like teams are grouping as 5, looking for that one pick, but both teams right now grouped as 5 if they run into each other. Yodie Gang's just hanging in the Gold Fury pit, while Tythonic, they're locked in right now to Stealth Grass. Yodie Gang closer. No. Ollie's the most in danger, but everybody separated time. Yeah, that was a massive ward.
Lives.
I mean, it's Halloween, and that ward, like, that basically was a jump scare.
Yeah, I have to imagine we didn't get, because why would we? The pings that you just got from dropping that ward, if you're on Yodie Gang, you hear 5 at once, and it just all of them show up. And that really is, I mean, you had mentioned it, we've seen a lot more of that presence in general, where some of these teams, you'll group as 5. We talked about this at the beginning of the last set. We haven't gotten that explosive start. We've seen the worst case scenario for a lot of these teams is, oh, our support got caught out. Well, there's first blood. Oh, well, GG, let's farm better. And that's typically the reset. Luckily, again, Ollie kind of saves from that fate. But I was more intrigued to see that Tythonic grouped as 5, but they didn't do anything aggressive. They stood very far back in their jungle, grouped as 5. Kind of trying to bait out and hope for that invade, to see that over extension, right, from Yodie Gang, and then to jump on them. Luckily, again, that ward exists, so that did not end up coming to fruition. But I like the idea behind their lie in wait.
Very interesting start from Yodie Gang that left their yellow unprotected. And the Athena took advantage of it. Hecate started at backs, and both Fenrir and Bacchus, French Emperor and Seagull, went towards right, and they did blue-red. So their left side was very open. I don't think... Have we seen that start? I feel like I haven't seen that one so far at Founders.
I also haven't, and again, it's maybe just priority of where you put your buffs. Maybe it's fear of getting invaded. I mean, we can see a little bit of ward coverage, right? Trying to keep eyes where eyes could be, but... I mean, being able to get aggressive, if anything, it comes out more on top for Ice, right? Like, you get to invade. Maybe, at this point, the only one who's successful. I've seen some neutral camps going the way of Yodie gang, though, so it kind of maybe equalizes out. But it slows the jungle down for Yodie gang. And it is, like you said, a very interesting start.
Trouble for the Jingwei, the dash away. A jump in from Merca, feeling confident, gets the knock up, watch it damage onto Irapper. With the Fenrir here, Phantom Shell, is it safe enough? The jump away with a sliver, that's enough for Rapper to live.
I'm gonna be honest, we've been in this game, and I've had a lot that I've been looking at, and there were two things that just stood out to me that I can't believe I didn't notice sooner. One, is we've got the old school 2012 kill lane, right? The Ymir and the on her, the I can put up a wall, immediately we go for a kill. I mean, look at this kind of lockdown as well. Nil has no chance of escape. But that's the level of control that this Ymir is bringing, right? Ollie, when in conjunction with this on her, throw up a wall, impale, stun, they're dead. Freeze afterward. If they manage to survive all that, much like Raffer was miraculously able to, they kind of deserve to get out, because how did you live? How did you survive? And as you mentioned, this time it's a shell. The other thing is that Raffer's on Odin. I saw Athena, Amma, Odin, and in my brain, I immediately assumed, oh, okay, Odin solo, Amma jungle, Athena support. But we get the Athena jungle, we get Amma in solo, and we get this Odin support, which is not something we see often. And it will be a little squishy early on, but I'm really, really interested in watching this as it escalates through the game.
Stuns, slows, anything else? A blink, but the jump, no good for French Emperor. The Brutalize will hit, and Raffer should go down, but last time didn't. There's a stun. Merca with the cutoff, the impale. That time, they make sure Raffer stays dead. But they committed a lot already. Athena nearby. The Athena goes in. It could be dangerous, but she's going to look for buffs instead.
Yeah, that's honestly just good pathing from Merca, right? Like, recognizing, you know what? Go for the cutoff, don't go for the chase. Make sure that you're in a position where if Odin leaps away, you're in a spot that you can kind of 50-50. If Raffer doesn't have leap, you're in a good spot to hit him. If Raffer has leap, guess what? You're in a good spot to hit him. That's the kind of control and specifically pathing that'll ruin or hurt Tythonic. But again, this is a draft and a comp. I don't really expect, especially with the positions they've gone into, I don't expect to see control the early game. Meanwhile, the Fenrir, especially since he's in the jungle, yes, this is what you should be doing. Bully the Athena, find kills wherever you can, see what kind of lockdown you're able to do your damage, things like that. You want to control this early game if you're Yodie gang, which so far, again, you have. But I wouldn't mind seeing them, maybe even trying to dial it up. The problem is the lockdown, right? If you can find impale killer stuns like that, that's where it's going to be at. But, you know, Jingwei, Kalas showcasing it perfectly there. Incredibly slippery. Amma, for Peel, has her ult, right? CC immunity, and you get to stun people who are chasing you, so that's going to be difficult. And then Nuwa has a get-out-of-jail-free card in her ult as well, so it does feel like a lot of the pressure has to go onto Raffer or onto this Athena, because they're the easiest to hunt down. But you need to find a little more. You know, I'm looking at an early lead. It feels pretty good. Yodie gang have done everything that they should be. I want to see them dial it up just a little bit, because I think you're going to need more, or else by 15 minutes, we're going to see Tythonic really start to find their stride and be right back in this game.
I'm with you, especially because of how Tythonic has been playing around the map. They're down in kills, down in gold, but every time an action is taken by Yodie gang, Tythonic have been responding, mostly Ice on that Athena, has been reading the jungle very well at the moment, but you're going to need more. Maybe some picks, but Renegade with the ultimate gets away. Ollie in trouble, two-man knockup from Merca, a new wall ultimate to turn the tides, and you've got the Fenrir there, but already Tythonic have slipped out of your grasp. They've walked too far. That tower is paying dividends. It has kept Tythonic so safe so far.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, that's what this kind of draft and style, like that's where you're gonna have to play and where you're gonna need to be. And as of right now, things have gone awry, right, for Tythonic, but unless Fringe makes a massive play, this should still be fine.
There's the pull. Phantom Shell's out. Won't
kill.
save Kalas. Goes down already. So that's the third pick for Yodie Gang. Might have their fourth kill soon as Raffer is just nowhere to go. Ice will
kills.
watch from the rafters but cannot participate. There's just too much damage from Yodie Gang.
Yeah, realistically, I was thinking, and I'm sure Kalas was thinking the same thing. Okay, Jingwei gets picked up. The minute you're out of mouth, ult away. It's that simple. Like you said, there was too much damage, right? You heard the channel. I heard the call, the cry of whatever bird, eagle, falcon, whatever. Did not end up working out, didn't make it to the sky. Didn't consume the ult, but also wasn't able to escape. So the slippery Jingwei getting taken down is massive. Odin's not as slippery, so again, that's kind of makes sense where you should be putting your pressure. And Ice is the next best target. This is a really good early game start for Yodie Gang and a 2-level lead in the jungle for Fringe Emperor. We haven't been seeing a lot of Fenrir in the jungle. This is a really good and fresh reminder as to why he's strong everywhere, not just as a support.
And you said it in picks and bans. You said late game Tythonic, that's what they're playing for. That's what they're waiting for. They come online in a big way. But you mentioned Yodie Gang aren't bad. They have great scaling, but early they've got so much pressure and they're putting the pressure to use. You even said the 2012 kill lane. They're doing just that. I mean, look at their slash lines over in just duo alone. It's setting up everybody else. Plus Ollie earlier went to solo, now to mid. And Queen Naga might actually come off the back of it, but you'd be pulling a risk, so yeah, they're going to walk away. Trouble in solo for Seagull in the meantime, and Nil will get it. Barely survived Athena ultimate. It's the worst for 1v1s when you're on the receiving end.
Yeah, what I really need to see, and I'm kind of waiting for Tythonic, that is maybe a start, but that's a 2v1, so, you know, we'll see overall. I need to see the damage. I feel like if you had shifted some of this draft around, I'd be a little more faithful in it, but I'm really watching Ice and what the rest of the team is going to bring, especially when you have plays like this. I mean, Merca's turning this around.
Merca jumped into an Odin cage wanting to take that fight. I know Onher is the king of the jungle, but that was that was an ambitious play. It almost worked out as the scariest thing for Tythonic. Amaterasu was there, teleports back over to solo. I mean, Ali used the Phantom Shell to get away, and Merca was like, wait, why are we walking out? Let's just go back in. If anything, Merca might be upset they used the shell.
I love seeing Fringe Emperor lay in wait here. Again, if you're looking at where the utility is for Tythonic, the fact that they kind of invested much heavier into these shells, which I think, based on the walls I've seen, yeah, it was a good call. Jingwei with no ult, Odin with only the leap to disengage. This is a really good lane to bully, and like you said, and we've mentioned a couple of times, you've got the classic kill lane, and an Onher and a Ymir. Like, you've got so much CC and lockdown over here. If Kala steps forward, if Rapper steps forward, and they don't have leap or ult or dash or anything like that, it's just a free kill.
Jump from Rapper right into the jaws of Fenrir through the gates. Wow, that was quite the death to go down, but Ollie still taking a lot of damage. Did get a nice freeze out on the way, but they can't take advantage, and Yodie Gang cannot kill Ice on that Athena. Gold Fury secured, though, so Yodie Gang plenty happy to just walk away from that engagement.
And again, it's just a good play for him, right? Good positioning and to a good spot with their ults available. Like, Raffer has to make a play like that because this game, again, it's not, I wouldn't call it getting out of hand, but you need something. Your team needs something to kind of hang their hat on, because while your late game is strong, you have to hit late game, and you have to be able to contend with Yodie Gang, who's been successful up to that point. So you needed something like a Gold Fury. And admittedly, you're also an 0-2 at that point, Odin. You're not really worth too much overall, so it's fine to trade your life out for it.
For sure.
Being able to help pick some stuff up, get a kill onto Yodie Gang overall is big for your team. Good pickup, good presence of mind from Fringe Emperor. Again, I'm a big fan of how Yodie Gang are playing this game so far. And it's just because they're making Tythonic wait, which admittedly Tythonic were going to wait one way or another. But this is really forcing them into a spot where that pressure builds up as the game goes on, and you have to make proactive plays. You have to be able to read the map and kind of make those split-second decisions of, you know what, this is worthwhile of a steal because the Gold Fury is worth more than my life. Like, let's see if I can get it. Sometimes it won't go your way, but you need to be able to find those plays just to make sure that the door stays open for Tythonic.
You did talk a lot about the Amaterasu and picks and bans too, just based off what she brought in the earlier set today. And at the moment, sitting at about a level and a half lead over Seagull, and obviously winning boxing. I mean, your Amaterasu into a Bacchus. We saw Nil try to rotate earlier, and it didn't really work out so much, but is that presence, is the Amaterasu showing early, is that damage, is that going to be too much to handle? We'll see. It was a 2v2, but now you've got Ice on the way. Seagull will get stunned out, taunted in, and brought down. The Ragnarok is the answer. You've got Ollie on the way, but French Emperor too alone to make anything huge happen. And Ollie freezing away, but French Emperor walked back in, and Nil will make them pay. A big misread there from French Emperor. They just kind of stepped back up.
Yeah, so if you're looking for ways to get Tythonic back into the game, that was a good spot to be. 2-1-2, right? I was looking at the Athena, you didn't have as much damage, but now you've got lockdown, you're chasing Ollie and diving, you've got a pretty tanky composition that you can afford to make plays like that because the tower damage 12 minutes in to 3, for lack of a better term, tanks, at least tanky characters. Yeah, you can chase him down, getting the kill onto French Emperor as well. Suddenly some of the experience lead that was there is disappearing. I look over here, and Kalis, despite the fact that this lane has been so incredibly in favor of Merca, has a level lead, or at least half a level lead, and now has backup.
The ult won't be enough for Merca to survive, and how about Nil? Rotating around the map and has completely turned this game around for Tythonic. At 10 minutes, it was 6-2, and there was a 3k gold lead for Yodie Gang. Fast forward 3 minutes, the gold is getting closer to even, and the kills are even. And the Amaterasu, from a level and a half to 2 levels ahead of the Bacchus, and itemization-wise, coming online. Gore, this Ama is now the... I was going to say the assassin on the map, but really the bouncer for Tythonic.
Yeah, and realistically, it's kind of what you... I don't know if I would say expect to see, but this comp is built around, realistically, like 3, I guess, different levels of engage. It's Athena Taunt. That's going to be your surefire. It's going to work. Low cooldown. Happens constantly. Good CC. Easy follow-up. That's your bread and butter. That's number A. Then the Odin Walls and the Ama ult. Probably on the same page. Maybe Odin Walls favored a little more because support over your solo laner, but those are going to be your 3 real big points of engage, and those are going to be the ones that are the hardest to contend with, I think, for Yodie Gang, because you don't have any beats, right? You do have the Purification Talisman, which is going to help, but you have to have that on point to dodge out the Athena taunt, and you need to be present for it as well if it's going to make it happen.
Will this be a pick? The Brutalize misses! French Emperor went wide left, so no kill onto Ice despite the committal of Ragnarok and all the damage they found. I mean, those are mistakes when you're up against Tythonic, who's playing so clean. You really cannot afford to make. I mean, they're controlling the tempo of this matchup by a significant margin, and you're dropping Ragnaroks for no kill.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's just been an unfortunate last, like, 2 minutes for French Emperor, which, in grand scheme, it's not been the worst of the world, right? You got picked in right, which doesn't feel great, but it happens. And you used an ult that didn't go anywhere. But now that that's gone for a little bit, I feel like that's one of the biggest things kind of stopping and softening Tythonic's engage. If you Athena dash in and the Fenrir ults you and drags you away, you don't get the taunt, you just get killed. And so now Ice has a little bit more leeway. Same thing for Nil and Raffer. You have a little more wiggle room to try and get aggressive just because French Emperor doesn't have that ult. But realistically, like, looking at the minimap, I don't know that they care. I don't think Tythonic really want to get that aggressive right now. I mean, maybe they'll find some fights if they can see a pick or see an engage available to them, especially right here on Renegade.
Should be a good pick. No kill quite yet. Open the gates. We'll keep running on safe. Fire Shard's not going to kill either. Tythonic, no pick for themselves in mid. They do force some ultimates, but they trade a lot back. who's missing though? Their key has been the Amaterasu, and she's not there. And while they aren't looking bad without her, it's a weight that you feel missing if you're Tythonic.
Yeah, realistically, I think that, and as a whole, this has been the I like to use this word a lot, but it really has been the dichotomy, like the two sides, and maybe I'll continue that thought as Nina gets a two-man taunt. They jump in. Tythonic with this
Marco might be dead for sure, right? For sure. Neil been so strong all game and continues the damage to bring down the ADC. Who's up next? Should be Ollie. The taunt in onto the Ymir, and they're dead. Emmanuel with the credit for this one. And a dash right away from Ice Ice, looking for the Hekate. The stun won't find, but a taunt will, and they're dead. A double kill for Emmanuel. Tythonic continue to slam.
So what I was about to say, and maybe this provides an even better example, the two sides of Hecate that we've gotten to see. There is the late game, I'm going to deal more damage than you can possibly fathom in the matter of seconds. And there's the, I'm going to be 0-3 because I can't really do anything until I hit that late game. I'm going to do too much damage to you. And unfortunately, right. Renegon, you know, under control right now, lockdown, like you said, kind of forced to use the ult in mid. You're just not in that position to deal the damage, to cause a lot of disruption to Tythonic. Having to use your ult as a disengage, having to stay and play far behind because your team isn't able to create a lot of space for you, or that you're just not able to get the damage done yet. It's just the downside, I think, of getting to that point where Hecate does get the job done. Unfortunately, Tythonic just have such a great draft at dealing with gods that don't have CC immunity, or gods that have very, very, very restrictive CC immunity, like on her, where you can only use it on your ult. If you don't have a leap, if you don't have something to disengage quickly, you're taunted, you're dead. I mean, it's just that simple every single time for them. And so far, that's been Tythonic's MO, right? Nil, go in, ult. Raffer, go in, ult. Ice, go in, taunt. Like, one of the three, and then cool. Now everybody else, do this. Pile all your damage into one spot. It doesn't matter any other thing you do, because that one guy is dead, and now we've got a 4v5. Do it again to the next guy. Now we've got a 3v5. Yep. Do it again to the next guy.
You might be the coach for Tythonic. You're calling it perfectly. A decent open gates, though, keeps running in safe for the moment. Ragnarok almost brought back Raffer, but they couldn't bring him down. But look who's here. It's the raid boss themselves. Nil continues to slam!
The next guy,
double kill! Easy peasy for the Amaterasu. Speedrunning to level 20 and speedrunning Tythonic to an even larger lead.
Yeah, Seagull's playing with fire here. I like and admire the position. In fact, actually, with the loop around, this might be good with the knockup.
Ymir almost dead, does survive for the time being. Mid-Phoenix the target. The Tythonic are low, and they don't have any bombs in pocket to make this go faster. But it's only Seagull and Ollie to respond. Merca just now backed to help out. But beyond her backing is enough for Tythonic to retreat. I gotta point out something that's really starting to bug me about this game in particular, Gore. The Amaterasu is basically late game. She's having the time of her life. Neil's playing, they're playing fantastic. But you look at ADCs, Merca just backed, level 15. The Jingwei is ahead, and we haven't even seen the Jingwei in these fights yet for Tythonic. They haven't even been a factor. And the Tythonic looks so good. Once the Jingwei starts rotating, I don't know how Yodie gang fight into that.
Yeah, realistically, we haven't even seen a lot of the big power spike. I'm looking at the net worth charts as well. Things are getting out of hand in a lot of regards. Specifically, solo 3,000 gold alone is on the back of the AMA of the mass that they've been able to pick up, which is absolutely insane to think of, and almost 1,000 just in the support difference. And you can see that in the itemization really kind of crystallizing. But the back, as well as a full item buy, we were talking about this, I think, a little bit yesterday at some point. Maybe we'll have to hold that thought. Bill dying huge here.
Who gets it? Seagull. Okay, you take that. Seagull was one of the further behind. I think ideally, maybe you would have given it to Merca on the on her, but just killing the Amaterasu in general, Gora, I'm sure Yodie gang is plenty happy about.
Yeah. Oh no, that is a massive shutdown and a big kill to get. Wondering, I mean, that Pyromancer is still picked up thanks to the small little buff guys. And so this is actually pretty 50-50. You can walk up and take this if you're Yodie gang.
The Odin cage is perfect, but Ollie's still in the ring. The jump from Raffer. Who's going to get the pyro? Finally, it goes down to Tythonic. Kill-wise, though, Yodie gang already pick up one. And it's Emmanuel who's going to be next up. Almost the Jingwei. The airstrike to get away. Irapper, you have the same fate. The shield's out, won't matter. The CC, the Spell Eater mean you are dead. And Yodie Gang's got themselves a fight. They've got another and another. Everyone drops. All they had to do was TKO the Amaterasu, and Yodie Gang fight back.
Yeah, realistically, it feels like Tythonic, the biggest mistake they make there is just hanging around a little too long, right? Like, you get a pick on right if you're Yodie Gang, you kill off the Ama, you should be playing aggressively. And I like the idea of Tythonic staying around because you don't want to just give up a Fire Giant. I think you could probably have let the Pyromancer go without wanting to jump in and cause the fight. I understand wanting to kind of stem those losses. But now, I mean, you're still waiting 10 seconds for 2 people to respawn. You need to have a presence around this Fire Giant. You have Nil, and you're going to have Raffer, but you're going to need a lot more than just that to make it happen.
Ragnarok out. The dazzling offensive was used from Nil to stay alive. They want the fight. They'll take on everybody. Defender of Olympus is on the way. Will it matter? Yes, it will. Emmanuel able to pick up a kill thanks to the ultimate. Now Ice has another. And Yodie Gang, they had a good fight, but they're starting to crumble right back. And Tythonic are too clean with it. Neil picks up another. The two-man taunt for the double kill for Emmanuel. And Seagull, it's time for you to run. Tythonic is just too strong.
And they have minions right here in mid. I mean, you can get aggressive. Mid Phoenix has already taken a few hits. They might just go for the end.
The mid Phoenix should fall, and off the triple kill from Emmanuel, and a heck of a game from Neil. Tythonic are poised to end the game. It's just a matter of killing a Titan and being clean with it. That ward will give you vision to see yourselves take game 1. 5 seconds till Ollie. Looks like it won't be enough. It's always a possibility. Dangerous one with Ollie, but there it goes. Should go down. 500 is enough. And Tythonic take game 1.
Yeah, look, the way they play that, and realistically, there's a lot that's going well for them. Early game, I like what Yodie Gang was doing, and I think their amount of control was solid. But again, and I had said this during, I wanted to see him push it a little more, right? Yeah. Try to get a little more fine, just a little bit more to extend that lead. Because that is exactly what Tythonic were waiting for. They just needed it to get to a point where they could group up. I don't think anybody, at least I wasn't expecting it, maybe Nil was, but Nil's rotations and to the point where it felt unkillable and was finding kills left and right. Like it just felt like the stars aligned and made it so much easier for Tythonic. Because I mean, you even called it out at one point. Most of those were without a Jingwei. Most of those were without the carries. Admittedly, when we finally had the carry involved, it was when Nil got picked off, so it didn't get the full 5-on-5. But we get to slowly see this this pickup from Tythonic, and their draft to do exactly what it needs to. It levels up, it kind of builds into its tankiness, and it plays aggressive. It builds off of its ability to engage. And then it's just damage afterward. I mean, Ama had enough. You had enough coming from your carry and from mid in the new WA that as long as you had a taunt available, as long as you had a cage available, you were going to get a kill nonetheless, if not more. And that 2-man taunt at the very end, like that's just one that seals the deal, right? Where you're just like, I already know we're ahead, but this is what is the final nail in the coffin. You're getting shut down and we're going to win this game.
There's not a lot of bans yet in SMITE 2. 1 ban per team. So we haven't seen this a lot. I'm almost kind of hoping for a respect ban for the Yama, because aside from even Nil playing so well, Amaterasu looks tremendous. But those are game 2 questions, and game 1 is in our rear view, which means we need a short break. So we'll be right back in SMITE game. Do not go anywhere.
It's never been done before.
What's the plan?
When was the last time you were in Vegas?
You want to host an esports event in Vegas for SMITE. SMITE 2. Now you're talking.
The HyperX Arena, Las Vegas.
Some said it couldn't be done.
Are you guys out of your mind? The Jade Dragons winning worlds can't be beat. Not shouldn't be beat, it cannot be beat.
This January, see SMITE like you've never seen before.
You clowns are gonna need a team even crazier than you. Who'd you have in mind?
Coming this January, Hindu Man's 11.
You're either in or you're out.
I'm in.
They're in, are you in? The road to Vegas, it all culminates there at the HyperX Arena in Las Vegas, where the SMITE Founder Series Championship will be played and will probably be a memory. And as Dolson said, you got to find some way to compete with the Jade Dragons winning world. Vegas is the way to do it. So grab your tickets now, as there's still some left. And Gore, the excitement for Vegas is palpable, but the road to Vegas is getting me even more excited. We talked about the play-in land in December. We're going to see teams from LATAM have their chance to compete as well. It's excitement doesn't even begin to describe how I feel towards the Founder Series land. I think it's just going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, I think there is literally too much to be excited for. Being able to get to Vegas, like I've been in that venue before, it feels amazing. Plus, you know, where you're at, like I don't know how to describe it, because you know, when you go to you know what, Texas the last couple of years, when you're there, everything is Smite. When you're in Vegas, it's just got this air because there's so much going on around you as well. So you're there for your thing, which is amazing, and it feels fantastic. And then you step out after it's done, and there's still so much going on around you. I think it's going to be a good time for everybody involved.
Same. So make sure you grab your tickets now. You had the QR code screen before, and you can always go to the website as well to grab them up. But the road to Vegas, it continues. Swiss stage, more to go. Game 1, Tythonic. I mean, Tythonic looked great. Neil looked fantastic on the Amaterasu. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to say it was a 1v9, because there was some really good aspects. The taunts were great, and Yodie Gang had their fights, but come on. We all saw the same Amaterasu. And the Nuwa damage, we've all also pressed 4 on Nuwa.
Yeah, realistically, if you're looking at Emmanuel, the damage between the detonation of your clay soldiers and like you said, your ult, probably getting you a lot there, but it is the combination of Nil, the taunt from Ice, walls from Raffer. I mean, like, this is, I don't want to necessarily say that it was an easy game to be a carry in for Tythonic, but also your team's setup was so good that in theory you had to, like, almost had to do well, right? There was so much that was able to lock people down, whether it's Ice or Nil or Raffer. And so realistically, I think being able to look at the Nuwa and the Jingwei, like, your game wasn't necessarily easy, but it wasn't too difficult because it was taunt into kill. It was walls into kill. It was very simple. Isolated targets half the time as well. I mean, it was not uncommon for Tythonic to just go, okay, one guy, one guy, one guy, one guy. We're good. Let's just go now run the map. And even if it was only 2 kills that they still got them the same way, and they still led to the same objectives and control. So realistically, I think the draft plays well, and they leaned into their strengths incredibly well.
Yeah, they really did. It was definitely and we get into picks and bans. We'll see what changes, who gets grabbed. I'm looking for the Amaterasu, but for the ADCs, it's like in sports when it's a blowout, so you don't see the crazy members come in. It wasn't a blowout, but we never saw the ADCs tagged in for their big moments. We'll see if game 2 does bring that. The Amaterasu's got to be at the top of the mind. It's kind of hard for it not to be, considering how Neil performed. But the Baron has required so much attention. We saw the Neath get prioritization as well. Earlier on today, Fenrir and Jingwei were the ban combination of choice. So what are we going to see now? We've got the Baron. So Yodie Gang have a choice. Do you go back to the Neath ban? Do you look at a Jingwei ban who's been popular? Or do you give a respect ban to the Amaterasu, who is performing amazing right now, but clearly Neil's got it locked down?
Well, I'm really interested in this ban as well, because I feel like in a lot of these circumstances, what we've seen specifically for the first pick team is not banning the Baron, because then you force them. So let's say Tythonic bans Neath. You force Yodie Gang to ban Baron, and then you get your Fenrir or your Odin or your Athena or whatever it is that you're highly prioritizing. And so banning the Baron up front is kind of interesting to me from Tythonic, because it kind of shows me that
wisdom and strategy are better defenses than shields and armor.
They recognize it, but it's not necessarily that they want it. They just don't want to deal with it. And so getting rid of that and then making Yodie Gang decide, okay, which of the power picks are you going to give us? Are you going to give us a Fenrir? Are you going to give us an Odin? Or are you going to give us something completely different that is just going to absolutely roll over you? And I feel like the Odin pick, again, it worked out well for him. You threw it in support, which is not somewhere we see it commonly, but even though it has a rough early game, and I think that's going to be true no matter where, or at least if you throw him in support, no matter who you're up against, because like your Odin in the duo lane, if they've got CC, they're going to lock you down. And outside of your leap, you don't have too much to say about it. I do think by the late game, guess what? He drops walls and he's tanky, and those are the 2 things you're going to get the same thing out of solo. So as long as you can hit that point, which Raffer was able to, I don't think you have too much to worry about.
Tythonic do go with the Odin Bacchus 1-2 punch, and then they add on a Nuwa. So Yodie Gang, I feel like they're kind of in a place of, all right, this is not how we expected this phase to go. I would have expected an Amaterasu, but not that we saw. So Akate Neath locked up for Yodie Gang. So one thing they do have is pure damage, pure blow you up nuke potential for Yodie Gang. And they've got the taunt. to go alongside it. We've seen how much trouble the taunts have been causing today. And they take away the Ama for good measure. So a really great response in the draft from Yodie Gang, where I don't think you could have let the Amaterasu go into the second phase of picks for Tythonic.
Yeah, no, after that first point, honestly, I'm surprised that it made it as far as it did. I think like Nuwa, like Bacchus makes sense. Nuwa probably didn't need to be that highly prioritized. I feel like you could probably throw, I don't want to say any mage in there because she does have a very unique kit, especially with her ult. You can meme it for the damage, press 4, you're gonna hit everybody. Ooh. I like to use that for the vision. So I like to see, I could have maybe seen the Ama going there, but maybe they had this in mind, right? Bologna, we were talking about changes to basic attacks. I'm really, really interested in seeing what this Bologna is going to do for her build.
Basic attacks have been changed. No more base strength, you just get basic attack power. But Bologna herself, there's been tons of patches lately. A lot to keep up with, sure, but Bologna has gotten a lot of positive buffs, and she never really got hard nerfed, except for out of the initial sort of friends and family type of testing. There hasn't been many touches to Bologna in a negative light. She just hasn't felt as great. With all the buffs and all the situations that she's been put in, even if Amaterasu is not the most ideal matchup, I can't help but feel like this Bologna has the potential to run this game.
Yeah, I feel, and look, I will be the most honest I can be here. I am a huge Bologna fan as a god, as a character. I think she's incredibly fun. And so I will admit that there's probably some of that weighing into my opinion here. I just think that she brings a lot to the table. And realistically, against this draft, I think she has a lot of what you were using the Ama for. Maybe not the same damage output, but for the engage, she's still going to be there. And so I imagine, while it's going to definitely shift the dynamic between Tythonic and Yodie Gang, this draft looks like it wants to do pretty much the same thing as it did last time, or as they played last time, just maybe taking a little bit longer up front to, or slightly less long, I should say, up front to get to that point where they can find their peak.
I'm excited to see how the Amaterasu goes, and as we get closer to getting in game here in just a moment, the Amaterasu, the Bologna, they're kind of the go-tos to watch, but I kind of thought the Bologna might go to solo, but instead, Neil takes the Odin to solo, and Amaterasu to the jungle. Malamgor and Doug and Yodie Gang, grouped as 5, stepping up aggressively, but we've seen this dance a million times now, so I think we're okay to check out our relics, our god choices, and where gods went.
Yeah, realistically, this is something that I have to play every time, apparently, Tythonic play, because last time it took me, what, 2 minutes to notice that the Odin was support? So this time I will happily note that he is in solo. Ice Ice, and this is the thing, I should be flipping out more over Ice Ice playing Bologna jungle, when in reality, I'm pretty sure I've seen Ice Ice do that sometime in the last month. So while it is, or maybe it was a little longer ago, like you said, she's been getting buffs. I expect it's going to work better this time than I've seen in the past.
Ice Ice and Neil walk up. Seagull says, all right, I'm outie. Steps back. The Sunder gets their own blue away from Tythonic. So Seagull plays that perfectly, despite how scary it might have been. I even got baited. I thought Seagull was just conceding, but instead just plays the timer on Sunder and does it perfect.
Sometimes it's just that simple. And sometimes you ruin plans in the blink of an eye, right? I do admire, and I have to say very, very happily for Tythonic, the willingness to get aggressive, right? The double warriors, I think you actually have a lot of power on the right-hand side of the map that otherwise could be easily overlooked. I do think it's going to come at the cost of this, though. Oh my god, what a great gank so early in the game.
And who the kill goes on? Mirko. There's been a lot of supports getting the first blood that we've seen today, but for once, for Yodie Gang, it goes on to the Neath, and that's very ideal, especially in the matchup with Jingwei, where early on, Jingwei is not feeling great boxing into Neath. Now he's got first blood to deal with as well, stacks in line earlier, all positives for Yodie Gang. And with the Bologna jungle, Gore, your points to it have been spot on, plus you're even safer because you're not getting countered by the Amaterasu in every laning phase. You're not having to force max your Scourge. A lot of good options for Bologna.
Good knock up from Raffer. There's a lot of things like I'm juggling in my mind, and like you said, the Bologna specifically, especially in the jungle, good engage. I'm waiting for that level 5 because that's really where a lot of that's going to come from. but you've got good chase down, and realistically, this might not be as prevalent. Maybe against the Ama, it will actually. Having a disarm in your kit, especially like against a, now that I'm looking at the draft like closer, I'm actually feeling better and better about it. Against a Susano, against an Ama, and against a Neith. Like, Neith, yes, a lot of your damage is coming from abilities, but you're still going to be weaving autos in there. Same thing for Susano, a lot of your damage is coming from those autos. Having little things like that, if you time it well as Ice, there's going to be moments where Yodie gang, you know, maybe French Emperor or Seagull, they go in for an engage, and then they just won't be able to play the game the way they need to get things done. And the CC that Tythonic have, that's kind of what was winning it, I think, in game one, is their CC, their control overall against Yodie gang. I think they still have a lot of those elements. And so it's going to be up to Yodie gang, maybe again, maybe it's early game, maybe it's just in those fights to find a way to overcome.
Some damage on, taunt good, not a lot. Susano's been lurking for a long time in solo. Finally giving up the patience. Neil still has not jumped on this Odin. That's what they were waiting for, and it just never happened. 2 waves of minions, not a single jump from the Odin. I mean, I'm not sure if Neil was aware of Susano being there, if their patience is that great, but it worked out fantastic. Sun out from Raffer. Ice has not enough to follow up, no ultimate online still. But a jungle invade. Susano aware. Purple buff contest out. Raffer there with Ice. There's a jump. It goes to Tythonic. Yodie gang won't force the issue further.
I kind of like the idea that Yodie gang is representing there, right? I mean, you want to defend your buffs as much as you can, but I admire more the control to recognize the lost scenario and not bite off more than you can chew. I feel like that happened a lot in that first game. It got a little sloppy in places where some of the teams, or some of the players, just kind of decided to go a little further than maybe they should have, needed to. And sometimes little plays like that, little things like that, break open the gate for the other squad. And I think that's where Tythonic started to get a little bit of their raise in game one. So recognizing, you know what, it's at the time it was like 3 minutes in. Your middle tower, we don't got to die for this buff. It's not worth it dying for this buff, because if we lose the buff and we die, it's a lot worse. Instead, it's worth it to jump on Nil.
It's a party! Neil no longer invited. Oh man, that damage was insane onto the Odin. Notably, no items, no health items, no nothing. So Neil just got erased once that shield was down. And Ice wisely was just like, all right, my bad, Yodie gang, my bad. So second kill for Yodie gang. This one goes to the Amaterasu's pocket. 2 assists for French Emperor, but also a lot of presence in the jungle. Look where French Emperor, excuse me, yeah, French Emperor is now. Looking for that Nuwa. Has the damage on. Is that going to be a pick? Oh yeah, it is. And this one goes to Ollie. Supports love getting kills in these couple of games.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't blame him for it, right? You're in a good spot. You're able to get aggressive. And I'm always a big fan of just get it, right? like ideally, yes, get it onto somebody who you want to level up or to farm a little more, like Renegon or Merca or even French Emperor. But also, a kill is worth more than no kill, so make sure that the kill happens at the end of the day. Yodie gang up 3-0. Like, this has been a really solid start for him. Good ganks, good presence of mind. Again, the thing that worries me and what I want them to carry over from last game is play your early game. Do this exactly the way that you did, but also please push it into something, right? Getting a lead doesn't mean anything if you're not doing anything with the lead.
Merca in trouble, dead. The Scourge for the final hit for Ice. That's the first kill on the board for Tythonic. May not be the last, because Bologna's still here, and Raffer is going to have knowledge of where French Emperor is soon. Yodie gang, not aggressing yet. There it is, onto Raffer. But the damage back is immense. Ice half health the Athena with the bludgeon there as well. French Emperor goes back in, but Ice not taking the bait for a further fight. And we're back to Invade City.
Now, the real question comes down to, can you defend well if you're Yodie gang across the board? I mean, realistically, I think if Ice comes in here, you've got a little bit of downtime because no ultimate, so that might be the saving grace for Yodie gang. And that actually might end up being all she wrote, because the numbers advantage over here is Actually, it's slowly shifting back in favor of Tythonic. It was feeling like it was pretty red heavy.
Jingwei almost dead on the landing, going to be in trouble from the Typhoon, and is indeed. French Emperor will pick it up and group back up with Yodie Gang in the duo lane. The mids are rotating over, so things aren't done quite yet. No risk of the solo laners at the time being. A lot of damage onto Ollie. Will they go down? Yes, they will. 2 Ice Eyes, but open the gates was perfection. And Yodie Gang follow up with big-time damage. Another kill their way. Can Raffer get any picks on the way out? The answer is no. Renegade shuts it down after a fantastic ultimate.
And not only that, French Emperor, like, look at that health bar. Now it's filling up, but like, absolutely wild that they don't die there. I cannot believe that Yodie Gang was able to get away with that. That is a huge, huge fight. And now, I mean, you've got such a massive lead, not just the fight confidence as well, but you can see it in the experience charts, you can see it in the net worth, outside of literally just the Odin, which I don't know where Nil is getting all this farm, probably from a lot of the invades. Every single member of Yodie Gang has more farm than, well, until just now, the Nuwa ruined it. Had more farm than literally everybody on Tythonic, and the fact that your mid laner is contending with their support for farm right now is really going to showcase, I think, anything, more than anything, what Tythonic is doing.
Every ult is getting dropped in solo. Who will die? Looks like once again Tythonic. Neil's the first to go. Ice is second. Deja vu all over again in the solo lane. It was a repeat performance. Ice follows Susano in. Ultimates get dropped. This time it got even harder because Ali committed the Defender of Olympus as well to the fray. That adds a shield. That adds some damage. Not looking great for Tythonic on this solo ganks. And what's interesting to me, Gore, in game number 1, at around 7 minutes or so, we saw so much gold in favor of Tythonic. We saw so many kills as well. Or excuse me, for Yodie Gang. And we're in the same exact spot. But this time it feels different, because Yodie Gang had this lead, they had the kills in game 1, but they didn't have the feel of the map because of how good Neil was playing in solo. That's just not the case this time.
Yeah, no, this time I feel like control all around is much more in favor of Yodie Gang. I do admire Tythonic stepping up to the Gold Fury there. I don't know if I like these fights anymore, though. I feel like Ice, that's not a 1v1 you're going to win. I just don't think that there's a world where you're coming out on top of that. You're 2 levels down. It's Susano. You're down in gold. Like, there's a lot that should tell you don't take this fight. And that's the same reason. Tythonic look at the Gold Fury, but they can't win the fight. They need the Fury to get into a position to start fighting back. And to go on what you were saying, that's pretty much the big difference right now for Yodie Gang. It's not, oh, Tythonic overextended, we got a kill, or oh, we shut down like the Odin for the 3rd time. They're getting kills all across the board. They've got them on the carry, onto the jungle, onto the solo laners. They've got them everywhere. And Tythonic don't have a way to fight back in because, I mean, look at this. You can't even be safe in your own jungle without Yodie Gang coming up to you.
Get back here, Raffer. You got a grayscale to see. Yodie Gang pick up another one, this time around the Gold Fury. It hasn't been grabbed yet. 10.5 minutes in. So they could set up, or they could look for more picks. Why not look for Kalis? There's a taunt. But the rest of Yodie Gang a bit slow to the punch to grab the Jingwei.
I don't know if I like the call to try and chase Jingwei. I mean, I guess you're going to get some invades. I feel like they could have grabbed the Fury and been pretty well off for it. And this is making me a little nervous because a lot of what my issues were with Yodie Gang's lead in game 1 was that they didn't do anything to really further it. There's going to be a point where Bacchus and Odin and the Bologna are not going to be as easy to kill. There's going to be a point where Nuwa and Jingwei just get away. So if you're not getting the lead and extending it in other means, if you're not taking control of jungle camps, it just makes me a little nervous about where you're going to be finding some of that presence, because you know Tythonic is going to look for him instantly. You know Tythonic is going to be, still on the prowl, still hungry to find some of those leads.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's going to be found in potentially finding a Gold Fury. All you need is a couple picks here, and it opens up. Yodie Gang are in a favorable position. They should be the ones trying to start it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tythonic collapse on to Yodie Gang and cause trouble for them.
Seagull caught in the cage. Neil did rotate over, so we got everybody here for the fray, except the Nuwa at the moment. She'll be the slowest to the fight. How does it set up Yodie Gang? They're posturing up, but they've got no damage on. A jump in from Raffer. Where's the damage from Yodie gang? It finally finds a home. It's on to Ice. Bit spread, but they group back up on the gold. That was kept up the whole time from the Queen Naga minions. So that Gold Fury goes the way of Yodie gang, and the minions pay their dividends. Not done, though. A jump in from Raffer and a pick onto French Emperor. The shutdown goes to the Bacchus, but the kill is still huge for Tythonic. Are they done quite yet? Seems not. They want more blood. Neil looking for more damage. Gets the jump in. Cannot find anything. And the call's got to be to retreat. That Neath did too much to the backline.
Yeah, Collis and Nuwa need a little more items in order to balance things out. What I'm really curious about, and realistically, just like, and this is all quick mental math, that shutdown kill on French Emperor might have been worth slightly more than the Fury. Like, honestly,
yeah,
because
true.
I mean, you're 6-0-6, like you've been a part of 12 effective kills. That's a massive, massive shutdown to get, and while it didn't necessarily bring things all the way back in favor for Tythonic, in fact, they're pretty much right back where they were before the Gold Fury. I think that's the point that I really want to make, is that they aren't worse off now than they were prior to the Fury, outside of the fact that I have a lot less confidence in their team fight. That's the only real difference that's happened, and a lot of that, again, is still from experience and gold leads. And so watching what Yodie gang have been able to do in the fights, I think is a huge deal. But that kill onto French Emperor specifically is enough to make it so that Tythonic feel okay about that trade. You're 14 minutes in, you're definitely not in a comfortable spot, and I can actually see the gold starting to blossom a little more in favor of Yodie gang, so you're seeing that control, the stuff after when these fights really starting to take effect. But you're not out of it, right? We're not game 2 of set 1 that we saw earlier. Like, you're in a position where you can still fight, and you can still, you know, try to draw a line in the sand and see if Yodie gang are willing to walk past it. You just have to wait a little bit. And that's the thing, I haven't felt the same patience from Tythonic here in game 2 as I did in game 1.
Two-man talk. You've got Merca there, and more importantly, you have Seagull as well. Ice with a very short ultimate on Eagle's rally keeps them close, and with the Defender of Olympus and the Root, the damage will be too much. That's a killing spree now for Seagull on the Amaterasu. Meanwhile, Brennigan's been really throwing hands with Iraffer and has brought them low, but you've got Nil there, Cage out, buys time, Pyromancer goes down to Tythonic. And Neil looks to get away, will get brought back by the gates. Is that damage going to be enough for French Emperor and Rennigan? Oh yeah, it will. No more Odin. So a nice pickup off the back of losing that Pyromancer for sure. Raffer's still playing dangerous. Tier 1's down in duo, so we're chaos now. That's what we're doing. Full chaos. Raffer down, right? Come on.
Yeah,
are you kidding? Eventually?
It's gonna happen.
There it is. Wow. Talk about time wasted.
Yeah, realistically, that's a big win for Raffer. Like, if you're trying to draw a silver lining, that's where you're going to find it, is he wasted a lot of time and slowed Yodie gang down in that regard. I just don't know. I mean, I think a lot of this has gotten out of hand, and I'm going to lay it at the feet of where I think it needs to be thrown down. Not quite sure if the Bologna in the jungle hits the way that you want it to if you're Ice here. I feel like the other gods, and specifically look at the Susano, they're just getting the job done better. Wow. I mean, yeah, like, what was that?
Ice couldn't even get there to try to make a steal attempt. They died before they got to the pit. A lot of it, I feel like, is the build. You know, I think about what we've heard. We've heard Trelly, we heard Lermy talk about it last weekend with builds, usually on Fenrir, where going this hybrid build where you're sort of backloading your damage isn't doing a whole lot. Ice kind of did the same thing with the Golden Blade into the breastplate. Pharaoh's Curse. I keep mixing that one up. That's not me. But Ice backloaded damage, and the Pharaoh's Curse isn't doing anything combined with the Golden Blade aside from some farm and some slows. I feel like you need a lot more than that to be combat effective and efficient on the Bologna.
Yeah, it just feels like, I don't know, you know, we talked a little bit about the buffs, and I think that we maybe could have seen something in a Bologna in I don't want to say a more disorganized game, but maybe with different gods around her. I'm not even sure. It just feels like this god doesn't have a place, or doesn't fit as well in the jungle as she could, maybe because of scaling, things like that, but in the past we've seen it kind of work. I just think this is like the third or fourth time on Smite 2 I've seen Ice or somebody in EMEA play a Bellona in the jungle, and the third or fourth time, however many times it's been, that I've been kind of left wanting a lot more from it. You've got good engage, you've got, you know, decent CC. It feels like a pick that should work. But this Susano, maybe it's just because the game got out of hand. It just is getting outperformed every step of the way. It's down 3 levels, and unfortunately for Ice, it just means that you really don't have a spot where you can find a good impact. And that would be true of any god in this position, right? When you're down 3, you're 2 and 6, you could be a Loki right here. It would not make a difference. It just, you would not be able to get anything done. So at this point, god choice doesn't necessarily matter. It just means that maybe now, because you have that leap, your ult, right, to try and close some distance, try and close the gap. Maybe you can go for a steal in the future, but otherwise, the name of the game for pretty much everybody on Tythonic should just be farm, because all of them, outside of, for some reason, Collis, just don't have the farm to keep up.
Check your maps. Uh-oh, territory. A lot of gold for Yodie Gang. They've passed that 10K mark around the time they started taking Queen Naga into gold, and just nothing is being answered. This is not ideal for Tythonic, and we're not even at 20 minutes yet. Again, it just feels like a completely different team than what we saw in Game 1. The tempo is non-existent. There hasn't been the rotations from Neil. I'm assuming the Amaterasu just gave that kind of difference, because even when you look past the jungle, the solo presence hasn't been there the same way at all. I mean, we talk about how much participation French Emperor has had in kills this game. You look across the board, Neil is 0-3 and 0. I mean, that's somebody who we were on Superstar watch with in Game 1.
Yeah, it is such a drastic change. And realistically, it's because there was such a big focus from Yodie Gang on the right side. Game 1, we didn't really get to see it. And admittedly, Ama's not the most gankable person in the world, right? She's very, very slippery. Odin's a little easier to shut down and to lock down, and so now you've been over there, you're looking, like you said, 0-3 and 0. I think that it just got off to a really good roll for Seagull on the Ama, and doubly so, French Emperor made it so that everybody else was shut down, whereas last game, it allowed a little bit more pressure. Tythonic put more pressure in mid and in duo, so that there was time for Nil to just farm and get better. Now, that's just been a lot of this. I mean, if Nil doesn't make it out of that one, then Yodie Gang just walk to the next lane and kill somebody. There's just no pressure anywhere.
Jingwei's backing with the passive. She will be here soon. Neil trying to defend that tier 2. It's not going great. You got back up here now, but will you even have an Odin? No, you will not. This fight looks real good for Yodie Gang. They got the dazzling offensive. They got the stun onto Ice. Add a Spell Eater. You've got some good damage. The Typhoon connects. A prediction, a throw at Kalas regardless. That's no more Ice. No more Jingwei. Rapper up and down into the dirt. That's 4 dead on Tythonic, and Yodie Gang are on the precipice of forcing the Game 3.
I mean, at this point, you need a miracle play from this new WoW, right? Or you need this to be the slowest Titan Siege you've ever seen for Neil and Ice to be back. There's definitely a position for it, but I just don't know if you have the farm or the wherewithal to hold on.
The W in New WoW stands for Yodie Gang taking the W in game number 2. We've got ourselves a Game 3. We have a set, Tythonic. They've been answered and then some by Yodie Gang.
Yeah, and it leaves me scratching my head a little bit, right? Odin, first pick, goes 0-4 and 0, so maybe that leaves you thinking, hey, you know what? It worked when Raffer ran it in support. Maybe the Ama should have a higher priority for Yodie Gang, or sorry, for Tythonic.
Yeah.
Especially because, and that was going to be my next point, the new WoW got picked over it as well. It feels like the Susano and the Amaterasu were the ones that just created so much space and trouble and pretty much everything there and in between. So I'm going to keep my eyes on the draft phase, because I feel like a lot of what happened to Tythonic in that game was early game pressure that was built by Yodie Gang in draft that then got executed well and then spiraled out of control from there. Whereas Tythonic went for a very similar draft to Game 1, and had it stayed a little more even, they probably could have punched back, but the scales just shifted way too far out of their favor.
I'll be looking for the same thing. I almost wonder if you got to that third selection, if you were Tythonic, and you almost panicked about locking down a mid laner you would want, and they almost, I want to say forgot about the Yama, but maybe they forgot. But that means game 3's got the answers to what all these questions have now arisen after game number 2. So don't go anywhere when we come back to the conclusion to this set.
Messing around, calling all you freaks and nerds. You're just missing what you want. My brother's going down the drain, my sister's living the dream, but everybody's singing along. It's okay, we'll all soon be gone. Strategy. Who gives a shit about him anymore? Guess we never really settled the score. Half the town screaming out in vain, the other half is fake, but everybody's singing along. It's okay, we'll all soon be gone. Hey, what's the matter with the bright red lights? It's alright, we don't give a damn this time. Yeah! Everyone's a hypocrite.
Oh, welcome on back. Thanks for hanging out and sticking around. It's Malum, it's Goremizer, it's Smite 2, and if you're trying to be the coolest person in the group chat today, ! Access. Bunch of links are going to pop up. Follow those links. Put in the secret code. I'll tell you the secret. It's also on screen. Smite 2 Esports is the code you put in. Roll up in the group chat with a bunch of Smite 2 codes and group up with the homies tonight. Play some Smite 2. You'll be the coolest one in there for sure. And if you're anything like me, for once, that'll be the first time they respond to you in a group chat. So good for you as well. So play Smite 2 today, ! Access at any time during the broadcasts. Get yourself in. Gore, if I asked you to play Smite 2 with ! Access, you'd play with me, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be, like, between me and you, I already have access to the game, so, like, I don't need to do that. Like,
yeah, me too.
I don't need to do ! Access, click the link, put in the code to make sure.
Yeah,
that
I'm on the upgrading my Founders Edition path.
Yeah.
That's
what
a guy like me's doing.
If I, let's say, didn't have access, then I would do the path of hitting ! Access in chat, clicking on the link, putting in the code SMITE2 Esports to get then a code for the game that I can redeem on my preferred gaming platform. So then I could play Smite 2, so I could play with you. So yeah, I'd do that.
Thoughts on my next tattoo being ! Access?
I wouldn't do it, but I won't stop you.
Well, we'll see. Maybe enough people.
I'm a big fan of just like getting, whatever inspires. I held my arm too over. Whatever inspires you, right? So I'm also a big fan of tattoos on a whim. At least 3 of mine have been. So.
So maybe we're cooking. Maybe
cooking. ! Access, like just like right here across the forehead.
Oh, across the forehead.
Yeah,
on my eyebrow.
Whenever
line.
you're on camera, everyone will always know.
Yep. Well, anyway, we got a game.
Or something.
there is a game 3, I promise, between Tythonic and Yodie Gang coming up around the corner. Well, let's talk a bit more about game 2. I think the biggest point of discussion between us, even during break there, was we were talking a lot about the Amaterasu that Seagull looked great on, and Neil, just in general, being so much quieter. Because while Ice and the Bologna, they played a little bit lower than expected, I think the silence of Neil might be one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, that was just I don't know how to describe it other than just unfortunate, right? I mean, it was a really good sequence of events in game 1, and pretty much the opposite of that throughout all of game 2. It just unfortunate scenarios. I mean, you're 0-4-0, going from one of the like loudest kind of, hey, I'm making a statement plays to kind of a bunch of silence, and not even anything like, it's not even Nil's fault. It's the fact that French Emperor and Seagull played so damn well that they were able to get away with a lot. And so I think in the grand overall overarching scheme that exists for this team and all that, realistically, I just think that the matchup early on didn't favor them. I think the Bologna didn't get off to a good start. I think they tried, but I also think that maybe you go back to the drawing board draft-wise and change things up, because I think Yodie Gang won a little bit there and then executed it stronger on field when it finally came down to it all.
I write little circles by questions I wanna ask when I'm putting in notes, and I have one I'm pretty interested in your answer on. Baron Samedi got a ton of nerfs recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's still performing great. I'm not going to deny that for a second, but he's gotten a lot of nerfs. We've seen it instantly banned. As we get into picks and bans for game 3, is there a world where you ban out Sasano and try to grab Ama?
You know what? Actually, and if I think back to it, I'm pretty sure that you could probably flex that around. I actually like the fact that, and this is even better, that Yodie Gang went all the way for first pick, because this makes that choice, right, that decision that you just asked about, infinitely harder. Because it's not, oh, Tythonic, we get to choose not to ban Baron, and then we can try to pick it. Instead, it's suddenly, are we, like you said, are we okay letting Baron go over there? Are we okay trying to play into him? I feel like right now, Baron's healing is just a little too good, right? On himself, he's got good CC. I think he's just good. I think he's flexible because we've seen him played in support. We can see him played in mid. I think it is the right call to ban him out. Unfortunately, it does mean that you're in an interesting position everything afterward.
Yeah.
Bright side, your second pick. So while they get the Fenrir, right, for the first pick for Yodie Gang, which is, again, you know, we've sung his praises all day, you now have the option for an AMA. You now have the option for anything in the world, and you can get 2 of them. And there's a lot of good gods in the game right now. So I really am keeping an eye on Tythonic, because I think this draft and this phase right now, being second pick, this is a spot to try and trip Yodie Gang up.
I was kind of expecting Tythonic to go with an Amaterasu Susano combination of the 1-2 lock, but not the route they go. They grab Athena and Neath. Athena continuing to be at top of the top for EMEA so far this weekend. Now Yodie Gang, they've got an option, honestly, to do the same thing. They grab Akate, but you could flex the Fenrir here, and you could get French Emperor back on that Susano. The risk you take, or is you give Amaterasu to Tythonic. They go with neither. Jingwei's locked in. So Tythonic, they still have all the impact options from this game 1 and game 2 so far.
Yeah, realistically, I don't dislike the way Yodie Gang has gone with this. In fact, I think that the priority has been fine. I would not be surprised if you told me this was a jungle Athena again, right? I feel like Ice enjoyed that. The Neath shift up is definitely interesting. Again, I think it was banned game 1. That global presence is pretty massive when it comes to finding ganks and looking at fights. Again, a gank, let's say it's a 2v1, now suddenly it's a 2.5v1 because you've got a World Weaver coming over, a stun that's going to be available. So I do like the change up from Tythonic, and I like this draft even more. I'm now a little confused. Again, when I first saw this, and I would say right now, Odin solo Ama jungle Athena support, but what we saw earlier, I would not be surprised if it is Ama solo Odin support Athena jungle. And the way they played it, again, it went so well. The in-lane matchup for the Ama was clean. You suffer a little bit early on with the Odin, but now you've got a Neath beside you, and you're against Jingwei, presumably Bacchus, could be Jingwei Fenrir. Now that I'm seeing the draft in its entirety, I would maybe bet on Jingwei Fenrir. Odin's going to struggle. He's going to have a tough time if it's Fenrir that's over there, because Fenrir is really good at putting on early pressure. But once you get past that, you then enter the realm of control again that you had in game 1. So I think Tythonic are putting themselves back in the spot of find a hold, dig your heels in, wait a few minutes, then you can start pushing back, right? 8, 10, 12 minutes into this game, slowly but surely it's going to start shifting back in their favor. That's what I want to see.
Looks like Tythonic learned the lesson. New walk, grabbed 5th, no stress, 3rd pick. They got the Ama. They've got what they need, but Yodie Gang, they've got Susano. Who gets the better of it? Let's head into game number 3 and find out. It's Malum, it's Gormiser, it's Doug on camera. It's players on a map, and will they invade? That's the question we're asking every game. So far, no commits in this set in particular, no picks even, but it hasn't stopped 5-man grouping.
This one's a more interesting spot because it feels like Raffer is the bait, and the rest of the team is the go button. Raffer might even be able to spot things out if you curl around the wall. But this is, again, good
cut
positioning.
them off, yeah.
They might actually be able to get Renegon and French Emperor here.
Oh boy, lock in everybody. There's a taunt onto the Hakate. First blood already for Neil. Can you find more than that? Tythonic, back up, regroup. Yodie Gang, a member already down. They realize that's not the fight they want, but not everybody's backed up. Ollie jumps in, gets the stun. Decent damage onto Raffer. And a chaotic start means a first blood, and it went to the scariest person it could have gone to if you're rooting for Yodie Gang.
I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't go for a little more. They might, maybe, I was going to say, might be able to catch out Ollie. I kind of figure, and I admire it because you use a lot of your cooldowns, you burn Renegon instantly. I was expecting a small reset, get the cooldowns back, go back in, and it felt like both teams kind of wanted that fight, but also kind of didn't. Like you said, Yodie Gang recognizing this is a 4v5 where, no, this is a bad idea to fight even. But to see Tythonic kind of struggle to get back in there as well, maybe a little bit on, again, taunt for Ice. You don't have your dash because you're level 1. You only have the taunt, so closing the gap is going to be pretty much impossible. And it's got a fat cooldown early on as well. It is not a simple ability. So it does mean that it's going to take you a little bit more time, and so I admit a little harder, especially with Raffer at half health. You just don't have anybody who could close that gap and force the fight to happen the same way as catching Renegon off guard at that very beginning could have. Maybe there's a world where you wait patiently a second longer and you get 2 or 3 in the taunt, and it turns out differently, but hey, first blood's first blood. Your team's ahead. Like you said, it ends up going over to nil, which is a really good spot to be in. And now Tythonic just get to play kind of a patient waiting.
Damage from Molly. Galas. Not looking great, depending how many autos hit. All right, Mirko hit a lot of autos. Usually there's this kind of feel where you see ADCs hit a certain amount as they back up to the tower. You're like, wait, they're still kind of in range, but Galas lives to see another day. There is an Athena nearby in the duo lane for Tythonic, and there's a Susano lurking in solo, who makes the first maneuver. Nils seems unaware. Watch for the dash. Nils been great at reading these so far when there has been ganks. The flop from Seagull. Nils still holding on the dash, gets pulled in with the damage be too good anyway. French Emperor's going for it and finds the kill under the tower, is able to get away. No response from Athena on the other side.
Yeah, that's just unfortunate. Again, well, Ice doesn't have ult, right? So there's no way to get over there in a very quick fashion. The fact that French Emperor feels confident enough to dive the tower maybe shows one thing, but realistically it also gives a wherewithal of their mind. If you get a little more damage as nil, which would have been hard to figure out, maybe you have something, but we see the issue I think that existed in game 1 and how it's not going to work out as easily here in game 3, which is Amma was slippery. In game 1, you just weren't dying if you were nil. Now French Emperor has an ability that literally will stick to you like glue, will stay on you no matter what. And so I like the Susano pick, and I like the pressure that it's putting on these guys. I also like that he's not afraid to dive the tower. It's getting a little close each time for my liking, but it's still getting the job done and forcing a lot of utility and safety on Tythonic to get, burned, just to stay alive a little longer.
Great stun from Emmanuel to keep safe after the dive from French Emperor. We've seen already that French Emperor will commit to those dives. It's a follow me to duo lane for both junglers at the moment. The response from Kalas and the Iraffers try to cut off French Emperor. They can't find it. Instead, the CC hits them, and now French Emperor re-engages, gets a pull on a Raffer. Will the damage be enough? Not so far. The Phantom Shells dissuade. Mirko, though, full health. Anyone steps up, that Jingwei can do a lot. Not the case for the time being. Ollie kind of wanted to go for the purple steal, but won't overcommit and won't force anything for Yodie gang. Both teams can walk their separate ways.
I'm impressed with Renegon just out of pure farm. I mean, again, first blooded and is up a level. Like, it's just absolutely insane how well they keep playing this. And I will say the first blood this time happening as early as it did means that you were still able to get a lot of the farm. Like, you weren't missing for the start of the game. You were able to go get the bus, still get the waves. So you didn't necessarily lose out on much. It's just impressive to see how well they end up farming in mid, despite the pressure that has been put against them, and despite the way I feel like the game kind of lined up to be against them. Doesn't necessarily mean anything for a little while, because you're Hecate, so you might need to wait a little bit. But you're already stacking, Emmanuel's about to start, so like, you're pretty much in the same spots.
The Ragnarok, the airstrike, autos, kill? The answer is no. Iraffer, A-OK after the commitment from Yodie gang. I mean, that's got to be frustrating. You get the Odin ultimate, but you expend 2 ults like that for no gain when duo lane's been a pretty big topic of fighting. Not ideal. In the mid lane, ideal for Yodie gang. At least they get that. A pick up onto Emmanuel, who just started stacking and has to go right on back to base.
And I want to give a shout out to Raffer, because like that ult seems kind of weird. Like, oh, why would he drop that? And realistically, you're one auto. Those walls are going to eat that auto for you. I actually really love the idea of dropping that ult, just because it's just going to block the shots. That's all you need it to do. You're not trying to lock anyone in. You're not trying to lock anyone out.
And the added danger if you dive.
Exactly, right? So you're in a really good spot. I love the call to drop it, because no matter what, there's no winning play for Yodie Gang to get the kill. Unfortunately, they find it not too long after, when the ult's still down and you're off in the jungle. But in the moment, it was a really nice play. And then, like you said, getting a kill additionally in mid, it just means that you're starting to see what has been a lot of the success for Yodie Gang. All 3 games, the first 6 to 10 minutes have been theirs in control every single time. It's just then translating that into the lead and into something a little bit more after is where they've been struggling.
Ice with a pickup on the Seagull. Nil was low, but I've all seen the sustain from Amaterasu so far. Probably not in too much of danger in that moment. We're coming up on 7 minutes. In all the games so far, 7 minutes has been such a way to get a read on the game. Because in game 1, it was Yodie Gang with the lead, but Tythonic had the tempo. In game 2, Yodie Gang had the lead, and Tythonic didn't really have squat going for him. Well, it's going to be game 3. This fight might dictate it. The Ragnarok early onto iRapper. Phantom Shell in response to jump away, but is it away enough? So far, yes. And this game remains fairly even at the 7-minute mark. 4 left for Yodie Gang. Will they find more picks? Beads out. Backflip good. Spell Eater connects. And Kalas goes down.
Look, this is the kind of pressure that we saw from Yodie Gang last time around. And this is the kind of pressure I can get behind for them. I love to see them playing aggressive. I love seeing them walk up into Tythonic's jungle, strip the jungle. I mean, Ollie, especially when you're on this Fitner, play aggressive. I love this more than anything. I was saying it the same thing for Preds earlier in the first set. When you're on this Fitner, I just want to see you be annoying. I don't care if it is, you know, finding massive amounts of success. You don't have to be 8-0-6 for this to find success. You just need to force Tythonic into bad positionings and bad choices. Much like Renegon was forced to do bad positionings and bad choices just now in the jungle.
And from Renegon's perspective, it's, hey, guys, that's my red buff. Why is there a new one and the Theta sitting on my red buff waiting for me? Plus the World Weaver, just to confirm things out. I will say a decent ultimate from Renegon in response, but not a safe jungle and an incredibly even game. And, you know, usually 7 minutes is a little early to get that game state check-in, but each game has just independently felt completely different by this point.
Realistically, yeah. I mean, like you said, it's been such a roller coaster of a set, going from, you know, you're very fast competitive. I mean, even right now, I'd say this is pretty competitive, and that might end up causing some trouble. But Ice comes over with the taunt. You could cause even more trouble. But mobility is the name of the game over here. It does not feel like anybody is going to get caught easily on the right side of the map.
That was such a chair 2 fight from you. You predicted everything that would go wrong for it. I mean, look at you, back in the seat, not missing a step. That was perfect. You even called the taunt and then the importance of it not going down. But they said, what if we still fight? How would that look? Ice, not looking great, goes down, but able from beyond the grave to shut down French Emperor. A really good response. Dual lane, Ragnarok, Kalas, backflip. Gone. Airstrike, maybe not even needed. And then Cage to catch Merca, but there's nobody else around, so they should be okay. So we can talk about the fight in solo.
I am, again, just impressed, I guess is the only word I can think of. I love seeing what Tythonic have done. In fact, if you don't get that kill as Ice, the ghostly kill on the French Emperor, we are probably having a conversation about Yodie Gang starting to run away with things, right? 10 minutes in, they're still looking good, but realistically, they're not in this position like they were, you know, in game 2, where it was like, oh yikes, things are rough, right? 4-1-1 for French Emperor. If that 1 in the middle was a 0, if that death had stayed 0, I think we'd be seeing a much larger lead. It would have been, you know, emphasized into maybe more camps, more invades, maybe another gank. Now instead, you're still going to get a fight. It's going to be over on left. But French Emperor is definitely still one of the ones to look at. But you're also getting Jing Wei feeling confident. And Ollie, again, is just a menace.
Look how much damage on a Kalas, even from just the Fenrir, and you've still got other members around. So purple buff secured, no picks. Tythonic, though, still stepping up. I mean, it's just Raffer, but interesting that they didn't want to let Yodie Gang go away for free. And we're getting closer to that 11-minute mark. Still no Gold Fury for either team. All the games so far, Gold Fury, not an afterthought, but definitely not a priority.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the... What has actually really been interesting to me, speaking of... Wow. Never mind about priority. Priority for is Ice. It just feels like, I mean, good shutdown. Nil with good damage onto the Bacchus, but this is where some of the issues, I think, show up for Tythonic. And it was, I think, actually the reverse in game 1. But it's kind of hard to lock down most of the gods on Yodie Gang, except for the Hecate. Meanwhile, it's kind of easy to lock down Tythonic. I mean, look at this Neith, is very predictable. If that tower wasn't there, you guarantee they're going in and trying to find a little bit more. But Rinnegan would probably be the easiest target. It's just kind of hard to choose and lock down. We're waiting more or less for Ice to get to the late game and to get to survivability portion so that this Athena can really start to focus people out and go in for taunts and go in for the setup.
I want to give shout-outs, kudos to French Emperor on the Susano. Quiet game 1, worthy of some criticism. But so far, throughout Founders, when French Emperor has been on a comfort character, most of the time Susano, but if I go back far enough in my memory, I believe we saw a really strong Thanatos game as well. They've really performed up. Even going back to SMITE 1, my knowledge of French Emperor is when they play comfortable, I think of games I've seen them play in competitive finals matches on like a Wheelish, they're able to go crazy and perform really well. They just have got to be comfortable. And French Emperor got Susano, and man, do they look comfortable. And Yodie Gang they're getting all the dividends from it so far, Gore. I mean, this Queen Naga for free, Tythonic couldn't even step up because of the risk. It's just, everything's clicking.
Yeah, it really does just feel like, again, the way they are playing, the way Yodie Gang has kind of coalesced. Whatever happened in game 1, and realistically, it feels like they kind of lost a lot of their momentum in game 1. They regained it back in game 2, and they've kind of carried it. The early game control from this team is amazing. Seagull in a little bit of trouble, and this could be where I think a lot of the big turnaround is. It's not just nil, but realistically, it's Ice feeling confident in in-game.
Yodie Gang right to the Gold Fury. Raffer the steal attempt goes to Yodie Gang. Raffer could not steal it away. That might just be a sacrifice for their life. It is. Raffer down. Next up, who's it gonna be? Could be Kalas. Damage real good, and Merca gets the last shot to take out the Neith. The new them fog, it's so mysterious, and will keep them safe for the time being. You got backup on the way, so you go back in now. You've got Nil here, looking for Merca. Damage on, but Rennigan around the corner gets the Mez. Now the damage goes back on. Look at the shots ringing true from Merca. The airstrike committed. The land back. Is there a pick? Still no. Matter of fact, Emmanuel was able to find Rennigan through that somehow. Merca's still standing there throwing autos. I don't know how Merca's not below half health.
Yeah, first off, that's just insane. Maybe, I mean, Devos is doing a little bit for him, but this is really just kind of free firing, like you said, from the back line. What is really standing out to me, and again, makes me curious, doing the mental math, losing Rinnegan doesn't feel great, but you get the Gold Fury, a couple kills, feels all right. I think if you get nil, Yodie Gang can really call that an absolute win. It just felt disjointed after the Gold Fury goes down. It seemed like, yes, okay, let's fight, but you've got Ollie up on the left between the tier 1 and the tier 2 tower. Merca's pumping damage into the Ama. Meanwhile, you've got others who are around the speed buff. Like, nobody felt like they were in the best spot to really get the engage, and that was true for both Yodie Gang and Tythonic. And as a result, you know, Rinnegan gets got because the fight's a little sloppy on both sides, but nobody else really takes a lot of damage because it's this weird back and forth, shuffling in and out, really good trading from both teams as to who's standing in the forefront. But it did leave me wondering, is I feel like Yodie Gang probably could have taken that fight and dialed it up to 11, and we'd be talking about maybe even going for like a Fire Giant, like doing stuff incredibly early, getting incredibly aggressive. Instead, we're back to the farm game. Just a small little reset, right? Items still coming online. A lot of the lead for Yodie Gang is manifested, but not as much tier 3 items online, so it's small power spikes that they have over Tythonic. Things like, say, a tier 1 tower and left would pretty heavily facilitate the idea of extending that lead and getting, you know, for the Jingwei, a full tier 3 now up, and starting to find the stride you need to take these more aggressive fights.
That's going to be a dead Emmanuel. Not a lot you can do in that situation. French Emperor will get the credit. Their 7th kill on Susano. 9 affected, actually, out of the 10 for Yodie Gang. Nil and Amaterasu. If there's one thing I want to point out, and it's credit to your point, iRapper. I was about to give iRapper some props, so maybe I'll just hold my point in case the Odin goes down. Rennigan, the focus, however, gets stunned out by Dazzling Offensive. Rapper back in, back up for Ice and Nil. Can they bring down the Hecate? French Emperor's doing damage back. They still have not killed the Hecate. World Weaver will handle it, but the rest of the fight's gotten chaotic and split into 2. Towards the right, Seagull actually gets rid of Nil, who's been that problem on the Amaterasu. And French Emperor locks down iRapper. And I gotta say, Gore, I was about to give some props. I was gonna talk experience, game time, you know, with a work put in for Tythonic. I think I'm going to save that point for another day.
Yeah, maybe a smart thing to do. That's actually a really good taunt, just because Ollie has, like, no mana to work with, so it stops the aggression. But this is just what we're facing, right? I mean, a team that is incredibly dedicated, well-played, well-oiled machine. You've got an experienced lead, 3 up in the jungle right now for French Emperor. 8-1-4 for the Susano. I mean, this was true in Smite 1 for French Emperor. It's still staying true, which is cannot let this guy have French Emperor. It just feels too strong, too solid. And now, looking at what this team's been able to accomplish, I mean, where do you start to find the fight back?
Can you find anything? You didn't get the steal. Maybe you can find Ollie. Not even that. Not enough damage from the Nuwa. French Emperor had Jetstream onto the Nuwa. Goes aggressive. Open the gates. Doesn't find a home. Spell Leader just off the mark. But Seagull's got it locked down in the Nuwa. No more. iRapper. Next up, final auto clears at a rampage for Merca. And Yodie Gang now up 16-7. 2 gold berries in pocket. And their gold, they're speed running their way to 10,000. This Yodie Gang is the Game 2 Yodie Gang 100%. It just took them longer to get there.
Yeah, again, the early game was clean from Yodie Gang in all 3 games. It was just game 1, Tythonic was able to find a good turnaround fight, kind of in the mid game, and then they extend their lead. I think they had a good draft to do it. It feels like, and I don't want to throw Neath under the bus, because I think Neath is actually insane right now in the game. But it does kind of feel like, because the Jingwei swap sides, they don't have maybe that same hard hitter, like that crit presence that you maybe would have had otherwise. And so maybe that's where some of it is, but realistically, I'm just grasping at straws, because the answer is the Susano early game from French Emperor is just leaps and bounds ahead what we saw. I think it was Fenrir in game 1.
Yeah.
And then you add in Ollie on this Fenrir, who's been doing stuff like that. I mean, just an absolute menace all around, to the point where you're diving Nil. Like, Nil was unkillable in game 1. Now you're acting like they're nothing. And it's because you can't. You're 6-0-1 if you're that Jingwei.
Cage out defensively. Won't matter. Rapper still dead anyway. Pyromancer handled by minions. Yodie Gang, they kind of want the fight. They take the gates through, but they cannot find the Nuwa. They'll find the Athena, though. French Emperor on the chase. Damage is so strong. French Emperor just hits so hard. I mean, 4 levels on Ice. I guess what else should you expect? Now looking for Emmanuel. The Jetstream's going to catch the minions, but that damage might be good enough anyway. For the 1v1, maybe not, actually. The Nuwa handling it. Meanwhile, though, Gore, of course, Fire Giant pulled. And French Emperor says, well, I got what I wanted anyway. I won't even continue the 1v1. That's 5 on 5 for Yodie Gang, as their lead is now skyrocketed out of control. Kills out of control, and levels, I wouldn't even look at them.
Yeah, because you'll feel bad if you were rooting for Tythonic. I'll look at them, though, because that's my job.
I love setting you and Trelly up to be the I'm going for your throat analyst. That's my new favorite thing. turn back for a minute. I love doing that. So
four. Oh my god! Now it's 5 levels in the jungle. I had referred to Athena as a taunt bot earlier, and that's about all Ice can do from this far behind is hit taunt, and I guess also the Purification Relic. It really doesn't feel like we've got a lot going for Tythonic, and the question has to come down to like, okay, where do we find these small objectives? Where do we find the win? I don't think you step up to defend a tier 2 if it's a big if Yodie gang is fully grouped. I think if you're fighting a 3v2, like if you only have 2 members of Yodie gang getting aggressive and Tythonic is able to have 3 or 4 ready for the defense, that's when you're able to get aggressive and mount up maybe for the tier 2. You could also do something like this. Nil is probably dead, but I will admire this no matter what, because think of all the time you're burning from the buff, from the Fire Giant. Right now, you are just buying your team opportunity, and that's a huge deal. Unfortunately, the opportunity is not massive, but it is an opportunity nonetheless, and so I like the idea of burning that timer, saving your base, trying to stay in the game, looking for farm. You only hit level 20 once. Right now, if you're looking at French Emperor, they've done that. Everyone else is going to be able to catch up after a little bit of time. It's just going to be progressing to that portion. It's going to take a lot of gold to get there, but you're not out yet. Tythonic are in a very rough spot, and admittedly, again, I don't really want to see them defending any of the tier 2s. Mounted defense for a Phoenix. I even like this. Split push. Knock down a tier 2 on right. Knock down a tier 1 in mid or in left. Like, try to get something for your team, but definitely do not let them crack the base. Which the backs might be coming out a little too late to really stop.
I was gonna say, Tythonic, they're at your Phoenix. Just a warning from the spectators in the sky. Too little, too late. Solo Phoenix down to Yodie gang without any kind of answer from Tythonic, and if they have, they might go down in the fight, as Gore's been mentioning. Open the gates. Almost brought back a kill to Yodie gang. But now tier 2s are on the menu.
Honestly, I'm surprised that we're seeing Tythonic even kind of hover around here. I feel like, at best, soft defense.
Oh, they're going? Go in. Rapper jumps in and jumps to the grayscale. The response from everybody else on Tythonic is to try to get away, but Yodie gang's already got their opportunities. They've got their damage on. Spell Eater, Typhoon, crossbow bolts, everything hits. It's a triple kill for Merca. Go on, get one more for the Deicide. Yodie gang, they are just unstoppable.
It's a team that just plays well. I mean, I don't even know where to start with that.
What else can you say? Yeah.
You've got good CC, you're playing off of each other well. Admittedly, Tythonic, like, you're in a position with Tythonic where your options are dig your heels in and try to drag the game out as much as you possibly can, or try to make a play happen. I like the fact that they brought the game to Yodie gang. They brought the game forward to them. They said, we are going to bring it to you and try our best and get this done. The downside is just that means it's a Hail Mary play. If things go wrong, the play gets exactly what happens, intercepted by Yodie gang, and they turn it into a Deicide on the other end. It means the game's over for you, right? Your options are, can we pray and hope we get back into this, or can we try to make something happen? I like being proactive. I like seeing it, but unfortunately, Yodie gang, the lead, the God picks, I mean, just pretty much everything they had going for them. And that means they finally get that win. If they had been able to clean up a little bit of the mid game, maybe push a little harder of the lead in game 1, I believe they could have done this in a 2-0, which goes to show, I think,
remember that early game was so good.
Exactly. And it shows how Tythonic is strong, right? It's a hard team. It's really hard to do that against a good team. But then to be able to do it in game 2 is more of a stomp. Game 3, it takes a little while, as you had said, to get there, but they still find that same pace of control. I feel like French Emperor really changed the pace of game, and that opened up the doors.
Yeah, French Emperor, I think we've had a lot of talks about French Emperor on our SMITE Too Long Didn't Watch, even in our prep for actual Founder Series, like going back to the open tournaments during the initial playtesting and alpha phases. French Emperor was a topic of conversation because there were moments of such greatness on comfort picks, and then moments of where's the jungler, and Susano has emerged as one of the core comfort picks for French Emperor. And in a meta where we're not seeing too many junglers banned when it's not Fenrir or Loki, Susano might be a great pick to have in the pocket right now for French Emperor.
Yeah, Susano good. And
Susano
realistically,
good. Check.
What is it? I would even say that it's not even in the right hands. I feel like I've seen a lot of good Susano play, and it always comes down like 11-1 and 11. He was 9th pick. Like that, it was not a high prioritized god. It feels like that's been true. And it's because a lot of those high priority gods can get a lot done. I just think that, and you know, this is not necessarily a target at Tythonic, because I saw it a little bit in NA last week as well. The Athena in the jungle, the Bellona in the jungle, like some of these, they absolutely work. And realistically, the issue will be, and this is where the problem I have with the gods shows up, the first 5 minutes, because that dictates for a lot of these, like, not meta, quote unquote, right? Because what's a meta and an alpha?
What's a meta and alpha, and what's a meta when you have that room of no classes and no class passives as well?
And so, like, when there's not really a strict meta, but when you're playing these gods that are kind of off roll, the first 5 minutes of the game dictates a lot. And the downside is that when you lose that first 5 minutes, suddenly that god just doesn't feel good. Like, you know, if you lose as Loki for 5 minutes, guess what? You can still make your way back in. But when you're suddenly down 2 levels on an Athena jungle, you don't really have the same opportunity.
You don't. You really don't. And Yodie gang today, they made the most of their opportunities. They bring down Tythonic. So let's get our bracket update and check on how games have been going across EMEA so far today. Project Win go down 0-2 to Threat Level Midnight. That means Project Win will be playing in our last chance qualifier. And Threat Level Midnight, they've got a chance for playoffs. They move into the 2-2. And meeting them will be both the Scorps that we saw this morning and Yodie gang that we just saw get the better of Tythonic. So we got our 3 members, 3 teams for the 2-2 side, Gore. And that 2-2 side is going to be exciting for sure. A chance for playoffs, a chance for last chance qualifiers. But that's not the only region that we've got going on, because we have North American action still to bring you for SMITE 2 Founder Series Fight 2. I mean, there was a lot of fighting. Food Drive for Globe versus Name and Progress. It's coming up soon. And one to look forward to. Food Drive for Globe, they've got a surprising loss to kind of get off their shoulders. They looked fantastic, and then all of a sudden a shutout against Team Name, but with 5M score that I think you actually were on that, so you got to see it firsthand.
Yeah, no, again, one that I'm really excited to just watch. What, man, I guess like the future for a lot of these NA teams, because I think a lot of them, like, there's always the EU NA bias. If you go back, I guess now it'd be EMEA NA bias, in which case, you know, some people will say one's a lot easier to say and less of a mouthful. I don't know. But realistically, it's always interesting when you get to see them clash, because looking at it like at an eye test, you hold your thumb up and you're just trying to examine it. And it feels like there's a few more teams in North America that have that competitive edge to them. But that isn't necessarily to say that they have the best team. So, like, that's when I'm looking down, I'm looking at I'm way far ahead, because we haven't done stage 3. We haven't done stage 4. I'm looking at stage 5, because that means we're going to get cross region play already. But it is really fun to think about what these teams are going to be able to bring, as well as some of the strengths that we've had for a few of them, a lot of name power that you would recognize across all the regions. And North America has definitely been giving us bloodbaths. So I can appreciate that from this seat, because it just means there's so much fun to watch.
You just get to hang out, recline a little bit. Yeah, it's NA's been a bloodbath for sure. And I like what you said. There's a lot of gut checks for teams. I look at teams like Alak Club, who've been from the get-go considered one of the lower end teams for North America that had a lot to prove, and they had their moments of looking pretty decent, but now they've got a real test up against Borscht. A reminder, Alak Club, one of the players on Alak Club is named Alec Cosmic Vibes. Not a direct hate, but if you want to run with that lore, that's on you. Make it more interesting. But yeah, lots of check in NA. A lot of there's damage tests, there's witness tests. This is just a vibe check for the teams and if they can do it going forward. But that's the end of it for Gore and I on EMEA, but there is a lot more SMITE 2 to come your way. When we come back, North America begins with their Swiss stage week 4, and you'll have Dulcin and Trelly, so don't go anywhere.